Yes, 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 yes. Good morning. It's Friday the 13th. Are you ready for this? Good morning. I'm Mario Nunez. This is Down and Dirty. I'm looking at my broadcast partner who's frantically trying to get our guest to get her headset on, and she's got it on. John Dinkfelder, good morning. How are you, my brother?
Mario, you got it on, brother. Good morning.
All right.
It's going to be that kind of day.
Let's get rocking. Let's get rolling. Jason Marlowe at the switch. He's the one that always brings us in with that.
The dulcet tones.
That's right. The flair, the Down and Dirty. Introduce our guest.
We're gonna get a little down and dirty today.
Don't you worry. Listen, we have two special guests in the studio. We're still going to do our early bit that we do each and every week, where we get things off our chest. Those of you that have been listening for a little while know this, and we also have to take this opportunity to thank everybody. Last week, fundraising week is never a great deal of fun, as it were, but it's something that's necessary in community radio.
I love fundraising so
and
much.
we need more of your money. Let's not forget.
Well, and John, you should be no stranger to fundraising.
I love fundraising so much. I actually missed last week, and I
with good reason. With good reason. Mom was
under the weather,
That's
and we
right.
had to go to the doctor urgently. But she's made a great comeback at 93 years old.
They do.
Awesome.
They do. Let's hear one for. Let's ring one for it. And the reality is, you still were connected to the show because, of course, your better half was here subbing for you, answering our phones, and at the same time, you did call in and offer a pledge. So we're grateful for that.
Lynn was here, and I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys holding down the fort.
As it were.
Listen, in regard to fundraising, we did not make our goal. So if you missed last week, or for whatever reason couldn't contribute last week, we really, really would appreciate, not only on behalf of this show, but on behalf of the station, WMNF.
Here.
44 years been around, and we need another 44 years. So you can go online, WMNF.org. And I think you can specifically target Down and Dirty, so we get a little credit for that.
That's correct. And there's a tip jar there. You always hear, if you're listening to WMNF with any regularity, frequency, you know that all the jocks and all the talk shows will mention that. Share a little love, and you can go to the tip jar. It's a great and easy way to do it. And we here at Down and Dirty, hello, my friends. We all appreciate it.
All right, enough of that.
Yes.
We've got some good guests. Why don't you start with this one, Mom?
Sean O'Brien? Sean, is that your name? Is that your real name? Is that what we call you today?
We'll work with that one. That works.
Does his mic turned on? Make sure his mic is...
I think we're good.
Yep. Okay, good. There
I don't hear me, but...
Now we hear you. Now we hear
I have
you.
to do a little wiggle here.
Sean, we had to push
Not
you.
me, but
we had to push you. We had to push you last week because it wasn't in fact, fundraising week, and we didn't want to deter from the conversation we're going to have today. All things Ybor City. It's Renaissance, and you're an important part in that.
All right.
Who's the lady to your left? Do you know her? Because I don't know her.
We just met.
We have the
actually.
lovely Grace Gonzalez.
Good morning,
Hi,
everybody.
Grace.
And Grace is going to tell us who she's with and what she's doing in a couple of minutes. But Grace, it's lovely to have you grace our studio today.
I am
that's-
so excited to talk all things Ybor.
There you go.
Ybor's a great thing. So guys, the elephant in the room. Should we talk a little bit about it? Just let's give it 7 minutes. Jason, go ahead and kill your mic, because Jason's having a big problem this morning. All we want to do is just show our concern, show our love, show our empathy, show open our hearts and say what is going on in the Middle East is just it's an atrocity. It's atrocious, and there's no excuse for any of it, and it's horrible. John, take it from there, huh? What a nice pitch.
I've been so sad all week.
Sadness has been. There's a pall over my home.
Yeah.
I'm sure yours.
Yeah. Many people don't know necessarily, because Dingfelder is not a very Jewish name. But I am Jewish. My mother and my father. I was raised in the synagogue here in Tampa, Congregation Sher Zedek on Swan Avenue in Tampa. I feel very strongly about my Jewish origin, my Jewish roots, etc. I've been so sad this whole week because I like to lead life in an optimistic way. And I think inherently I'm an optimist, and I always had hope that that this Israel-Palestine thing was going to work out and get better, and now I'm feeling very pessimistic. I'm feeling very sad. Jason?
I mean,
Also Jewish. Over
yeah,
here.
there's nothing we can do to solve it. I think at this point, I've thrown up my hands on it. I really have. I'll go plant a tree somewhere and feel better about myself doing that. I just there's nothing we can do. I come from a family where my father sees the glass, or excuse me, I see the glass half full. My father doesn't see the glass. Like we take the pessimism to a whole new level in the Marlowe household. There is no optimism there, and I don't know. I have no interest in talking about it because it just sort of feels like an issue that we can't fix.
I know, and as the Gentile here in this trio, I'm curious more than a cat. I'm curious. I want to know more. I want to know the whys of this whole situation. It confounds me as much as, in many ways, and being an American born of Cuban descent, it confounds me as much the people that from Cuba that got here 59, 60 during the time of the change, that still have that angst and all of that ill feeling and all of those horribleness that was, and because I'm not connected to that story. You know, my people came here with Mr. Ybor in the late 1890s, so I'm devoid of that connection to that connective tissue to the story. And
I think we talked about it. I think we agreed that next week's show we're gonna do the deep dive into it.
So
we'll have some guests who are very, very knowledgeable.
That's what I'm hoping.
And on both sides, you know, if there are sides to take. But
it doesn't have to be. For me, it doesn't have. I want the scholars here to give us the scholarly approach on all of this.
I mean, the show is down and dirty.
Give us the history.
I think that all sides need to be heard, and we're going to gather up some good people and hash it out in an intellectual way.
Well, speaking of down and dirty, let's before we go to our great guests.
You've got one?
Yeah, I got two people in our crosshairs, in my crosshairs.
There you go.
I'll say very frankly, I had thought we had gotten rid of these folks. Like, well, I don't understand.
Are you back to local politics?
Yes, so an article in the Times the other day, the demon barber of Bayshore, Joe Citro himself, deciding to come back into politics, back into our lives somehow all over again, had the audacity to suggest that he did more for housing and transportation than Mary Ella Smith did. And let me just make it clear for all those who are listening, that man is a bully and a deadbeat and a loser who was the third horse in a fourth horse race. So not sure what he thinks he's coming back for. And Jackie Toledo.
What did he file for, Jason?
He's intending to file for County Commission District 6, which is the seat that is vacated by a friend of our show here, Commissioner Kemp, for which former Commissioner Mary Ella Smith is running.
That's a wow.
Jackie Toledo, who is, I guess, out here still living off her husband's stolen money. I don't know what she's busy doing, but she's trying to make a comeback too. And this is down and dirty, and we're going to start. You know, the fire's getting set this morning, all right? Like, two people who this county would be much better off having no involvement in its politics, trying to get their feet back wet. I ain't here for it.
Mario, for legal purposes, we're going to throw Jason under the bus and say those were his personal opinions.
That's right. And do not reflect the opinions of the WMNF.
Oh,
yeah. Right. But listen, that's youth
Let
also.
The world know.
That's the vigor and the excitement of being young and eternally optimistic and looking for the better angels at every corner. He'll get beat down enough and around. Yeah. Well, that's what he should be doing. But the reality is, I agree with this young whippersnapper 120%, because neither one of those two should be anywhere near a gavel of any kind. So as we move on. As we move on, that's just a little, preparation for next week. You guys, if you want to join the conversation, stay close. Friday mornings, 10 a.m., WMNF 88.5. And if you want to call in today and join us as we turn our attention towards the renaissance of Ybor City now, that makes me smile.
There you go.
Because my ancestry has a direct lineage through that little area of Tampa that, if the city of Tampa had not made the smart move to annex Ybor City, we might be looking at Tampa being what we know Ybor City to be, and Ybor City being what Tampa has ultimately become.
There you go.
Because it was Ybor City that was the engine, economic and otherwise, that drove this area for many, many years, and it was the hard work of all those immigrants that got here. As we talk about immigration,
I'll never forget my first exposure to Ybor City. I was a little protected little Pompesia boy growing up a block
blue
away.
eyes. Come on now.
A block away from Plant High. I knew about nothing that existed north of Kennedy. And back in the early 60s and mid 60s, my dad worked over in, like a warehouse building sort of thing over near Ybor City. And he would take me to work sometimes. And at lunch, he took us to the Silver Ring on 7th Avenue and for a Cuban sandwich. And I was like, wow, look at this place. This is like really cool. And brick streets and old buildings. And it
Sight,
was
sounds, and smells.
nothing I'd ever seen before. And Spanish-speaking people.
Hello?
Which I had never seen before.
Old men with their
I was-
cigars and
I was-
Cuban sandwiches being made in the window.
I was so sheltered, it's very embarrassing to admit. But I'm glad Dad took me there and exposed me to that world, which I now love. Well, as a matter of fact,
Cherish.
I'm in the process of redoing a bungalow in Ybor City right now. And right there off of Columbus Avenue. And the city did a beautiful job of redoing Columbus Avenue. And, and now, there's great things happening in Ybor.
The Latin Quarter to our Tampeño history, what the French Quarter is to Nolens history. So I think we can safely make that comparative. I think it flies. I think it does. So let's introduce our guests and let's get into it, because at 17 past the hour, if you'd like to join the conversation, I'll give you those numbers right now up front. Call us at 813-239-9663. You can email DJ at WMNF.org. And if you'd like to text, because that's just easier for you, 813-433-0885. The phones are lighting up already.
I think our other special guest, our third special guest, is calling in there at the bottom.
Well, we're going to leave that in. That's a mystery
that's
guest.
a
Yeah, that's a
mystery
mystery
guest.
guest.
Okay.
Mystery guest.
All
And
right.
you're going to know him as soon as you
All
hear
right,
his
mystery
name and his
guest,
voice.
Hold on a few minutes, and we will get to you.
Absolutely.
After we hear from these wonderful folks in the studio.
Sean?
Yes.
So grateful to have met your acquaintance, as they say, years ago now.
Yeah.
My brother, you have worked relentlessly. You have been ensconced in the community for a minute.
Yeah,
Share
yeah.
with the people a little bit about your history, the people that don't know who you might be.
I started Broken Mold Entertainment with my partner Phil Benito. I'm no longer a partner, but we did concerts in Ybor and all around Tampa and St. Pete for 20 years. We helped start a few festivals. We took over Guavaween one year and made that a walking festival. We did like lightning pregame. We had a partner, Joe DeCunto, come on right before I left. Who does like Rock the Park and lightning pregames. They're still doing all that stuff, doing a bunch of great shows. And then for a while I had a deli, a Jewish New York style.
We
Jewish
miss that deli,
on
we
Cass
do.
Street. I do. It was a fun few months.
I know Jason misses it a lot. Jason spent a lot of coin in that deli.
Yeah. Before the road shut down and then the whole world shut down, it was fun. But and now I'm involved in what's going on in the Crest building. I have a micro cinema there, screen door.
Where is the Crest building?
The Crest
Sean?
building is on 7th Avenue in Ybor. It's right off 17th. It used
About
to be
halfway through.
Yeah, it's a large space. It was where the customs was for a while there. It's right off the corner. There was that open hookah bar, and then the next building over, and then almost half the street is the Crest. It's 3 floors, 10,000 square feet.
And the whole thing's nonprofit?
The building itself, yeah, it's the Crest Contemporary now, which is a nonprofit, and it's connected to what is going to be the Citrus Factory, which was the Meat Yard building. It's going to be the Meat Yard Gallery and the Citrus Factory, and they're all going to connect at a nonprofit. We're actually expanding on the second floor to the west for another whole floor of stuff. We have art galleries. We have my micro cinema, which is a 38-seat theater. Tampa City Ballet is there. We have a photo studio, Dave Decker's photo studio. We have the writer's room. Fringe has a black box theater there.
So let's jump back about, 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
Ybor was an arts community, correct?
Right.
I've read part of Paul Wilburn's book.
I mean, that's what Guavaween started as, was all the artists having a big parade and a party. And all
Were you
that.
around for that?
I just had moved. I moved here in '88. My family, my aunt my dad's older sister came here to go to University of Tampa in the 50s and never left. And then one by one, every one of his brothers, sisters, parents, cousins all moved to Tampa. We were the last holdouts.
Funny how that happens, Sean,
Yeah,
huh?
we were the last holdouts. We moved in '88, but I would come here every summer and stay for the summer, and then I flip-flopped when I came
So
here.
tell
I'd
us
go
about
north
the
for
art
summer.
scene, the art scene in Ybor back then in the 80s.
It was really cool. My aunt had a lot of friends. We'd go to like the Ovo Cafe and little galleries and stuff like that. And then, I mean, just art and everything. It was just, there was a lot of cool stuff. The Cherokee Club, the Blue Chair, which was like
my friend Jill Wax with her
yeah, La France even.
La France,
and-
the
yeah.
old antique clothes.
Yeah. Sweet Charity, which had a bunch of really cool little knickknacks. I remember buying an old Jimi Hendrix poster off the wall for a friend of mine from like a show he had in Tampa in the 60s.
And Guavarine was very organic, right?
Yeah, like it was right on the street. But I mean, much like Gasparilla, like everything's become corporatized now. But like Guavarine, like, yeah, you were like right on the street. Everybody was hanging off the balconies, having fun. There was, it was more of a party and a celebration. And then, obviously in the 90s and mid to late 90s, it became more about getting drunk and having a little trouble and stuff. But yeah, originally it was just a celebration of Ybor City itself, a celebration of all the artists and all the local great stuff going on there.
High praise to the bohemian aspect of this and the artists that decided to take a chance and come here in the late 70s when urban renewal was already destroying half of everything,
Right.
and decided to anchor the Ybor City and hold on for dear life. We've had Joe Howden in studio with us before, and we know he's been very instrumental in all of this. He was in the early days as well.
Right. Michael
And
Murphy.
another one, Michael.
Yeah, his dad. Yeah.
And thank goodness for these people that have just kind of like held on for dear life
Right,
until
yeah.
everybody else saw the value in Ybor City and came in ultimately to then now develop it to being what it is. I think it's amazing. I think that Mr. Ybor is smiling somewhere because he realizes that,
Well, it
the
survives.
essence of the essence of it is still
it survives.
Yeah, the embers are being fanned once again, and
Right.
and hopefully we can weed out the ill-intended young folks to because it really, I think that they missed an opportunity, Sean. They could have turned it into maybe something like a living, breathing, like a Williamsburg, right? Is it Williamsburg where you go and you
Oh, in Brooklyn.
where you go through? No.
Williamsburg,
Where were you
Virginia.
talking?
Virginia, where you step back in time, like you
like
see
an old-
you
yeah,
see
I
the
got
blacksmiths, you see the spinning, you see all the things like it was back in those days. It could have been
Well,
a section of it.
Dick Greco wanted to do that when he was mayor the first time.
It didn't go though. We weren't ready for it. We weren't.
No, but he wanted to do that. He and I think Richard Gonsmart's father, but they had this idea of
Caesar?
creating this little village. And they said, let's have bullfighting.
Okay, that would have been a little too much, I think. That would have been a little.
Bullfighting story is amazing. So anyway, very quickly, they brought it in, and then the bull got loose or something, and then I don't know.
Became Pamplona.
Yes, running, everybody running. Bring the
whole-
bed races back too, Sean. I mean, let's do that. That was a lot of fun as well.
Grace,
Yeah, that's the Merchants Association.
we
definitely.
appreciate you coming in early this morning and tell us about your Tampa history. I have a feeling maybe you have some, and some of the things you're working on.
I would love to. I'm here on behalf of Centro Estoriano de Tampa. I've been a member there for a few years now, but my family has all been members for generations. I was born here in Tampa. My father was born here. My grandfather, my great-grandfather. We
Are
were
they
part
all-
of that 1880s, 1890s wave of immigrants.
Gonzalez,
That's
what
some
other
serious
what other
Nathaniel
family
history.
names? You must have several family
Oh,
names in
it's
there.
all Sanchez, Gonzalez, Perez. I mean,
There you go.
names that are all over the streets of Tampa, but it's hard to know who's my cousin and who isn't. Everybody is.
It's all incestuous, right?
Exactly. So my family came from northern Spain, which is known as Asturias.
Oriana.
And back in the 1890s, early 1900s, a lot of those immigrants who were working in Ybor City, mainly in cigar factories, had their dialects from the places that they came from Cuba or from northern Spain or from pockets of Sicily. And they used all of their money to form these mutual aid organizations, these big, beautiful buildings in Ybor City that are still there. And
Let's rattle a few of them. We got Centro Estoriano. We got the Cuban Club, which Patrick Montega and his crowd
Círculo
have been
Cubano.
working on. You got the
Centro Español.
Italian Club.
yeah, the Italian
La
club
Unión-
is a German club that's now Metro Inclusive Health.
Martin Maceo is
Exactly,
Yes.
that building is there.
Yeah.
And back then in the early 1900s, 1902 was when Centro Storiano opened. You could get your hair cut there. There's a cemetery attached. There's a bowling alley. There's a bank. Obviously a ballroom, a
They called
theater.
it womb to tomb, right?
Womb to tomb. They took care of every need you had. So it really was a mutual aid society because you went in and you were with everybody that was part of your community and you were all paying into the system to support each other. And we're so lucky that the buildings are still there. And today we have a membership that's working to restore different parts of the building. And luckily this year, from July to September, we finally refurbished and renovated our theater. So we've got brand new seats and we're really excited about
Gorgeous.
What floor is that?
that. That's on the second floor.
Second floor. Okay.
So my grandfather tells me they used to have these events multiple times a year where they'd have huge dinners in the 250-person ballroom upstairs. Then the women and children would go watch something in the theater while the men went downstairs to the first floor cantina and played dominoes and drank. People upstairs were cleaning the ballroom, and then once that was clean, everybody evacuated the theater and they had a big dance upstairs.
Beautiful.
It's a beautiful space, and it's a great place to celebrate and use all the different functioning spaces.
And what has happened in that theater is spectacular. If you haven't
need to
seen
go
it, the
see it,
pictures,
yeah.
the pictures are amazing. We should go see it together, and then
Have a remote broadcast.
why
or
don't we
something.
try that? I
Have
think
you
we
s-
can do that.
You've been in the Tampa Theater seats, right? They had their 2017 renovation. We use the same Irwin Seating Company to get that historical feel. It really feels authentic. We used all the paint colors that we looked into at the Tampa Bay History Center to make sure everything was authentic. And it's really a gorgeous.
I like the
gorgeous
fact
scene.
that the Mutual Aid Society buildings, right, the ones that we just named, are still here, and they're trying to kind of. It's not a one-up thing, but they are, moving a little bit in that direction where, okay, now the Centro did this, we've got to do this as well, and it can only help the community at large.
Exactly.
I want to give a shout out to Lynn and my good friend Kathy Bartolotti. And Kathy, Grace is on the younger end of the age
The damas.
spectrum. Kathy's my age, thereabouts, and has put a lifetime of work into the board of Centro Storiano. Shout out to her and all the good people who've just held the ship afloat for so many decades. And now you come along as a young person, and you're carrying the torch.
And what was the name of that ship, Grace? The Covadonga? Does
The
anybody remember
Covadonga.
the Covadonga? Of course.
We have a Covadonga
You
meeting
have
room.
and you have that mock-up,
With the
that little,
beautiful bar.
I don't know what that is.
mock-up.
What is that?
That was the ship that was used to transport all those Asturianos to the New World, as it were.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Because I know about the local one, Cuba. What's
the
that one?
mascot.
Yeah, the mascot.
And the
right.
Olivet, but this
And the
one,
Olivet.
it was an actual sailing vessel, and you've got a beautiful mock-up of it at Centro. So, I mean, if you guys haven't been there, take a minute and get over there and see the loveliness that is
We
this
do.
building.
Yeah.
It's important to me as you've called me younger, but a younger person who's here in Tampa to know that as more and more people are moving here, that they know the stories that have been here. I mean, know about Ybor's arts culture, know about those immigrants who built Ybor, know what kinds of things they were seeing and doing and how they were spending their time and what they were eating. And
Right.
keeping those kinds of memories alive is important.
Yeah, Ybor City is much more than just a place to go to a bar and get drunk. I mean, Ybor City has a beautiful, rich history that makes Tampa so different and so unique. I mean, I had a choice.
But
when
it is a great place to get drunk too.
See? You
Yeah,
see?
there are
It's
some
great
great
for a lot
bars
of
in
things.
Ybor.
I thought about ringing a bell there, but I held off. I held off.
You should do it.
But anyway,
You got to support those merchants, right? I mean, they've been okay. I'll ring it. I mean, Sean talked me into it.
The
right?
other,
There you go.
shout out I want to give is to EJ Salsinas, who I believe is probably one of our top Asturianas, if that's probably
That is Asturiano?
bastardized
That's
way
right.
I
to
love
say
him.
it.
He was in the deli all the time. Like, he was a great supporter.
Yeah, and
He
I
was a
heard
great
that
guy.
they were talking about naming a school
They should.
after EJ, and I
I've heard that as well.
Yeah, so send your emails to the school board. We need EJ Salsinas.
And let's do it now.
school.
Let's do it now so we can honor this wonderful historian, this wonderful son of Tampa, this wonderful Tampeño, because it is time to do that. Do we
have
want to
a-
remind everybody that they're listening to, if you're just joining us right now at the bottom of the hour, you're listening to Down and Dirty on WMNF 88.5 Community Radio. I'm Mario Nunez alongside John Dingfelder and Jason Marlowe. Join us here in the conversation as we bring in a third guest to talk to us today about some of Ybor City's history.
And this guest has tremendous history with Ybor as well.
And his family is doing it.
Yep.
I'm just going to say that. They're doing it. Caller, I think you might be there, and now you're joining us. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Hi, John. Hi, Mario. Thank you very much for the very kind introduction. This is Drew Newman from J.C. Newman Cigar Company, and we're very proud to keep Tampa's cigar tradition alive here in Ybor City.
Well, Drew, welcome to the show. I do remember you, I think, in either in elementary school or middle school, going to school with my daughter, Sadie.
I did.
But, Drew, we're so glad to have you and the Newman family represented. Tell us a little bit about the cigar history of Tampa, because there are people moving into Tampa who probably have
Every week, they don't know this story.
no clue that we are the cigar city.
That's
So-
right. We know we're very proud of how Tampa's being transformed and continuing to grow and expand and welcoming new residents. But our hope is just all the transformation development can occur without forgetting where we came from, without forgetting the historic character of Tampa, which really has its roots in the cigar industry. Because as you know, John and Mario, before the cigar industry came here to Tampa in 1885 and 1886, there really wasn't much here. We had Fort Brooke, the U.S. Army post. We had some people who fished, some ranchers, and there was about 700 of them, and that was it. But almost overnight, when Mr. Ybor decided that Tampa was the place, perfect place to roll cigars, and he decided to move his factory from Key West, other cigar makers followed, and Tampa's population exploded from about 700 people in the 1880 census to 30,000 people just 20 years later by 1900, and more than 100,000 people by 1930, making Tampa the largest city in the state, all really because of the cigar industry. And as you both know, anyone who's been here for more than a few generations, your ancestors either rolled cigars or cooked lunches for the cigar workers or made cigar boxes or printed cigar labels or supported the industry in some other way. And we're just very proud of the historic character of Tampa, of the cigar industry here. And as the last factory still rolling cigars in Cigar City, it's our privilege to keep this tradition alive.
Absolutely. And Drew, the Newmans got here a different direction. A lot of the cigars manufacturers came from Key West and from Havana, but the Newmans came here from
Cleveland.
Cleveland,
exactly.
Ohio.
We were also one of the last arrivals, too. Mr. Ybor arrived in 1885, and the first cigars were rolled here in April of 1886. But my family didn't make the journey to Tampa until 1953. My great-grandfather started our company, started rolling cigars in the back of the family house in Cleveland, Ohio in 1895, and we grew from the family house to a storefront to a series of larger factories, becoming the largest cigar maker in the Midwest. And then at a time when my great-grandfather and his friends were deciding to move to Florida to retire, and he was 78 years old, he decided to move to Florida too, not to retire, but to bring our business and our family to Tampa, because it was the fine cigar capital of the world, and that's where if you made cigars, you wanted to be in Tampa.
Well, a lot of good workers, the Italians, the Spaniards, etc., were here. And did they build the building or did they buy the building?
So we're located, and where I'm calling you from is our iconic El Rolo Cigar Factory here in the historic district, and it was built in 1910 by the Regensburg family, which moved down from Lower Manhattan. That's where they were making cigars, and then they came down here to Tampa to join the cigar industry here, and they built our building, and they moved out in 1951, and my grandfather and great-grandfather moved in 2 years later.
And I knew your grandfather. Didn't know your great-grandfather, but admired your grandfather tremendously. So where are you at now? You're one of the last ones, I think, except for very small companies that are trying to roll cigars. But
Yeah.
I roll cigars at my house. Nobody cares.
you roll something else, but it's all medicinal, I'm sure.
100%.
Okay.
Well, a century ago, there were 150 cigar factories in Tampa making 500 million cigars by hand every year. It's an incredible number. More cigars were made in Tampa than in Cuba or anywhere else in the world, which is obviously why we're known as Cigar City. But beginning in the 1960s and accelerating in the 70s and 80s, one by one, Tampa cigar factories closed. and most of them moved their production overseas to Latin America. And so we still have a beautiful collection of historic cigar factory buildings here in Ybor City, but we're the stubborn ones. We haven't left. We're still rolling 60,000 cigars a day here in Ybor City, and we're rolling them today just like my great-grandfather did 100 years ago. It's pretty remarkable.
That's fantastic. And you also have a museum over there.
Yeah, this is a great museum.
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, our factory was built to be a factory. It was built to roll cigars, and that's what we've always done. But what we realized was 3 years ago, as we approached our company's 125th anniversary, we realized we were the last factory left here in Tampa. So we realized that if we didn't open our doors to the public and invite people in and share the tradition of cigar making in Tampa, nobody else could or would. And so for our 125th anniversary, we restored the factory, built a cigar museum, started offering guided tours. We have cigar rolling classes. We had host a bunch of events. We had 22 weddings here last year, and we went from having 0 visitors 3 years ago to 10,000 visitors last year. Then this year we're on track for 15,000. So it's a real privilege for
Wonderful.
my family and me to be able to share Tampa's cigar story with visitors from all around the world.
If you're just joining us and you're just now turning to WMNF 88.5, you're listening to the voice of Drew Newman, the 4th generation caretaker. At least that's what Richard Gunsmart refers to himself as. He's the 4th generation, later to be owner of Newman Cigars here, J.C. Newman Cigars here in Tampa, in Ybor City on 16th.
And I'm so proud of Drew because I do know for a fact, because I'm friends with his dad, that Drew, I think you went, to California or something for several years, but clearly you decided to come back and continue that family legacy. And thank you so much, Drew.
Aren't we the better for it?
Thank you, John.
Here, here.
It's a privilege to be here and to keep our family tradition going. And our one only goal is to roll cigars 100 years from now, just like we do today, which is just like we did 100 years ago, and keep telling the story of Tampa's cigar heritage.
And like I said earlier, Grace is continuing this legacy.
As is Sean.
Sean, tell us how this all ties together with the art scene in Ybor City. Sean O'Brien.
I think Ybor in general, it's just, it's ever flowing, and everybody has their own version of their Ybor that they love. But the beautiful thing about it is the good stuff sticks. Like the people that really care about what they're doing, as far as like you said, he came back, his family is stuck around. Like they're constantly trying to make Central Ostorino better. Like places like Crowbar, there were tons of live music venues that came in, but tons of them are gone. But Crowbar's still here because he does it right. Like people who try to come in with like Subways and Buffalo Wild Wings and Victoria's Secret,
7-Eleven.
and Urban Outfitters, all that stuff goes because there's no history there, there's no love there, there's no passion for the area. So I think when people fear that Ybor is going to change for the worse because certain things are moving in, I think they just need to always remember like the quality sticks in Ybor. The
Quality always
heart
has.
sticks. Because when they recently announced like there's this poor lady that's opening up a cheese shop in Ybor, and everybody went nuts and went off on like how like it was getting too classy and blah blah blah. And I'm like, do you realize there's a crepe place in Ybor already?
yeah.
Like
They make
Ybor
crepes.
could have like good stuff as long as the people are passionate and care about it. Like it doesn't matter what it is as long as it's good.
And it's nice that it's
Yeah.
small and homegrown and that sort of thing.
And the same with the arts. The arts has kind of ebb and flowed with Ybor. Like you said, they helped revitalize it when it had gone down for a little while. And then they did such a good job that they got booted out because all these big places moved in. And now some of those big places have fallen off of the wayside, and some people that really care about it. People could say what they want about Daryl Shaw, but no one else was giving a building to artists to have a place.
Speaking of that building, you're doing movies or theater?
Well, I'm on the board of Tempest Projects, who has 5 galleries in there. Tracy Medulla has done an amazing job.
Great.
Just the whole building itself, she's really taken the lead on that and really done an amazing job. I have my theater in there. I have 2 partners. We have a micro cinema in there. It seats 38 people. We do movies that run the gamut from new movies to like silent films to
scary movies during Halloween.
Oh yeah, we have tons of them for Halloween.
Micro cinema. That sounds
yeah.
so cool.
Yeah, it's
I'm
really
not familiar
great.
with it, really.
Yeah, there's
Small
there's one
screening
in
room.
St. Pete called Green Door. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm forgetting something like that. But Green Light Cinema. But yeah, it's just kind of a more intimate setting, and we kind of can show what we want. That's the other thing. Daryl has been like super generous with the rent for all of us to try this out, like everybody in there probably wouldn't be doing anything in Ybor if it wasn't for, the help we got, because it helps us kind of show a movie and be like, if only 8 people show up,
we're still okay.
It's a really cool movie.
We're still
that people
okay. We
need
can
to
still make
see.
rent.
Yeah, we're still good. If we want to like give a student the room for the night so he could show his film to friends and stuff, we could do that and not worry like, oh no, we got.
All right, you're a nonprofit doing this theater thing.
The theater isn't a nonprofit. Tempest is a nonprofit. The building
So
is
how
a
do
nonprofit.
people go to the website? What is the website?
Well, we have our own website. If they just look up screendoor.org, I think it's microcinemayibor.org. But if you look up Screen Door Ybor, you'll find us.
And they can find out what's playing.
Yeah, and then find out. We're on Instagram and Facebook and everything. And but the Crest building itself has it. Tempest, if you look up them, they have a whole thing with all the events they have going on. They have a big fundraising event coming up at the end of the month. So there's just tons of good stuff going on in that building if you check it out.
And Grace, you represent Next Gen. I like to use that phrase. I'm not sure exactly what it means, but you represent Next Gen as it relates to our history here. And I can hear the enthusiasm and the excitement. You haven't stopped smiling since you got in the studio, which is really great for us because we pick up on that energy. How much fun are you having being a vital part of the renaissance of Centro Asturiano?
And are the other young people interested, or
That's
are
a
you
great,
just
that's a
the
great
anomaly?
follow-up. Great. No. She's the lead dog in this Iditarod. But
I'd hoped, to be a leader in it. I'd like to get more young people involved and interested in the history of Tampa. Like you made a good point earlier, kind of comparing Tampa's Ybor City to
the Latin Quarter
New
to the
Orleans
French
Latin
Quarter.
I mean, we're both port cities with a lot of different cultures that have brought in a lot of different flavors, a lot of different music, a lot of different things, and it's a task to get people excited. But so many people are already excited about Tampa because of the sports and the weather and so many other things. So the name of the game is to just show them and make sure that everything stays exciting with big smiles and enthusiasm.
If you read the Gary Mormino book, the big book, I don't know the name of it, but it's a wonderful book. But he talks about the connection, especially with Italians, between Tampa and New Orleans back in the late 1800s. And when Italians couldn't find work here, they'd jump on the boat and they'd go over to New Orleans and they'd build a railroad or whatever, and then when it died off there, they'd come back here and they bounce back and forth. A lot of connection between the two.
100%. And when you think about foods that have been so uniquely identified as New Orleans food, Creole and Cajun, I mean, a lot of it's Gulf influenced, and a lot of Tampa's food is Gulf influenced. We have a lot of the same flavors. We've got a lot of the same Sicilian immigrants, and then add Cuban immigrants and add Spanish immigrants, and
all of a sudden that jambalaya tastes real good.
We've got a lot of stuff.
In the Centro Asturiano, you've got a beautiful building. You've got active members. Are they the only ones who are allowed to use the building?
No, the building is available for rent for weddings, for any sort of event. We have meetings in there. We've got boardrooms. We've got a little library.
I think Hillsborough High School is going to have a big reunion coming up, or a big celebration. I think they're going to be using the Centro. 100 years
Grace
next
City
year,
Church
24th.
is in there sometimes on Sundays doing worship ceremonies. We've got all sorts of stuff. We've got a Halloween party coming up on the 27th, a bourbon tasting coming up in November. Our website, centroasturianotampa.org, has
Plenty of parking.
Plenty of information. We've got plenty of parking.
And the Damas will take your money, too, if you want to go in there and play some bingo on the third Wednesday. Is it the third Wednesday of every month?
Spicy hot bingo.
I love it.
And it's right there at the corner of Nebraska and Palm. So it's not deep into Ybor. So if people are afraid, I don't want to go to Ybor at night or something like that, it's not deep into Ybor. It's right on the edge of
Northwest
It's
quadrant.
right by
maybe?
the Flan Factory and the Jameson Bread House. JP
Let's hear
Dough.
some. Let's ring a bell for the Flan Factory,
A
shall
couple
we?
of good snacks around there.
Yeah.
And I would be remiss. We were talking about the early pioneers and those that came in and saw the merit in being, responsible and caring a great deal about Ybor City. My dear friend Don Barco, who we lost several years ago, and I get verklempt every time I mention his name because he was like an older brother to me. But King Corona Cigars. What an amazing, amazing place to sit and be with friends and have a cigar.
One
or
of
a
the
café.
absolute landmarks of the city should be preserved for absolute all time.
Yep.
I mean, like, as someone who loves Ybor, I mean, everybody at this table, right, loves Ybor. And I'll tell you, as far as I'm concerned, King Corona is like one of the cornerstones of Ybor.
Don
Like,
was
may it be that way
Don
forever.
and Brenda Barco.
So here's what I want to say to our listeners. Give us a call right now. It's 239-9663.
Have you got a memory about Ybor City that you'd like to share with us?
Right,
This is a good
I
time.
loved what you said before, Sean, is everybody has a different Ybor.
Yeah.
Everybody has a different feeling about Ybor, a different memory about Ybor. I was talking about bars and probably jabbing a little bit. But you know what? Some people have, listen, my son Christopher is at the James Joyce in Ybor 3 or 4 nights a week and working. And they have a good.
I like the clarification.
Working,
He's not doing
but
bar
they
food.
have a good time there, and it's very much like a Cheers bar.
Right.
You know, it's not one of these out of town bars. This is a local bar, and they do a good job and all. Everybody has a different Ybor. Give us a call. Tell us what your Ybor is. 813-239-9663.
Any big events planned around the corner, Sean, that you can share with us?
Yeah, I mean, well, so for the movie theater, we have we were shown the movie Passages over the weekend, and on Saturday we have the director who's out of New York City. It's a large studio film. We have the director coming in via Zoom and having a conversation with us about it. On October 22nd, we have a thing called the B Movie Market, and I have a bunch of people setting up like comic book, video games, old VHS, old like movies and stuff, and then we're going to show a few B movies in the theater. Tempest, as I said, has their big fundraiser. They have an art auction at the end of the year on the 25th at the Bricks in Ybor, so we're going
Another,
off-site.
and then 1920 is another event space, is it, or it's that they're renovating now? They're
Yeah,
doing
the
some
old
great
Frankie's
things.
Patio. Is that
Yes,
what you're
yes, I
talking
believe
about?
that's
Yeah,
correct.
yeah.
I believe that's correct. And Drew, you're still with us. I know you're still with us because I can see you haven't hung up yet, and I haven't hung up on you.
I had a question for Drew specifically.
I just want to know if he's got anything else coming up.
Well, that's what I was going to.
There you go. Ask him.
That's what I was going to lead him into. Drew, I think on the building to your south,
Yes.
you've taken it over. What do they call it? The Bat Cave or
They've
something?
replaced the bat. Yeah, they've replaced all those. Talk a little bit
Yeah,
about that, Drew.
please.
That is fascinating. And listen,
I'm
you're getting
actually
a lot
excited
of
about this.
You're getting a lot of pub and a lot of love from Channel 13. I know that Charlie Belcher's been out there a couple of times, and Lloyd Sowers has been out there. Come on, man, share with our audience what they're doing there.
Sure. So Ybor City is a wonderful, vibrant community, but unfortunately, in the 1960s, just like the federal government did elsewhere, the federal government came in and tore through our neighborhood and ripped it apart when they built I-4. And the decades that followed, so much of the focus and energy of Ybor was concentrated south of I-4 around 7th Avenue, and our part of Ybor City, north of the interstate, was overlooked and forgotten. But in the past few years, with the restoration of our historic El Reloj Cigar Factory, we're trying to shine a light on our corner of the Ybor City Historic District. And now that we have 10,000 plus visitors coming to visit our cigar factory every year, that they've started to ask, where can I go for a cup of cafe con leche or a Cuban sandwich? Where can I go next? And unfortunately, there hasn't been any place to sit down and eat or have a cup of coffee or enjoy a cigar north of I-4. And so we've taken over this decrepit building directly across Columbus from our factory. It was built in 1910 to serve our cigar factory, and 100 years ago it had a cafe and a cigar lounge on the first floor, and the second floor was an old hotel. And in the past 100 years, it's been a grocery store, a coffee mill, a brewery, and so many other things. But most recently, it was a seedy dive bar until about 15 years ago. But the only residents in the last decade have been a colony of 5,000 bats.
Yeah, most recently it was a bat house.
It was a bat house. We had a wonderful...
And today's Friday the 13th.
Isn't that great?
You shouldn't fear our bats here in Ybor. They're about the size of your thumb, and they eat mosquitoes. So what's not to love about that?
That's right.
But we've humanely relocated our bats to some new bat houses, which is allowing us to restore...
How's that going, Drew? How's that going?
Oh, it's going great. I mean,
You're a landlord for bats.
Well, yeah, but we're all preoccupied because when we saw that you were attempting to relocate them, that's not an easy task. You've got to set it up properly, and we're all worried. I'm worried that they roost. Did they roost? Did they come home?
They did. So we worked with a bat nonprofit that rescues bats.
That's
cares
super
for them,
cool.
and they helped carefully relocate our colony to some new, beautiful bat houses that we built. And I should mention this too. We transformed two small little lots across 16th Street from our factory into a beautiful new park that's almost finished that we're going to dedicate to the cigar workers of Tampa. And that's where we put our bat houses. And
what's the future of this building? A little cafe,
a little boutique hotel.
Are you doing a little hotel?
A little boutique hotel as well. Yeah.
So, John and Mario, my hope is that in 2 years, when we restore the Sanchez y Hyatt building, that you'll be able to walk in there, open your eyes, and the building will look like the way it looked back in 1910, with a small cafe
awesome.
and a cigar lounge on the first floor and a small hotel on the second floor, just as another way to help us tell the story of Tampa's cigar tradition and make sure that visitors who come to Tampa and Ybor City from all around the world have a first-class experience. And so
Drew,
we're very excited by it.
Drew, let me say, I've got two suggestions for you on that front, and you can take this for what it's worth. I think everybody that works there should be in period piece dress. I think
Okay.
you should make sure that everybody, that when they step into that building, they feel like they're stepping back into, it's
that's a neat
1910.
idea.
Number one. And number two, the second thing, and maybe more importantly, is that you consider hiring me as either your maitre d' or your concierge, because I could do the history there, and we can negotiate that salary later. But I can tell you this: there's nobody that throws a party like the Newman family, because I was graciously invited by your pops. I didn't get a chance to talk to you that night and thank you in person because there was a crowd around you the whole night. But that party celebrating your 125th that came a couple of years later because of COVID was unbelievable, my man. The Newman family puts it out there. When they do it top shelf. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for that amazing party that night. And thank you also for always having your eye towards the future. I think the Newman cigar, J.C. Newman legacy is in good hands with this young whippersnapper, Drew Newman, at the helm. What do you think?
There you go.
Thank you so much. That's so kind of you to say. When Mr. Ybor decided to come to Tampa in 1885, what sealed the deal was that the 700 residents pooled their money together and got $5,000, a huge sum at the time, to buy the land that is now Ybor City. And from that moment, the community, the government, the city of Tampa has been so supportive of the cigar industry for the past 134 years that it is our privilege to give back and to show the cigar industry's appreciation to everyone in Tampa for just supporting our home industry. So
I remember
it's a real privilege for us.
I remember a couple years ago, Drew and Congress, for some strange reason, was taking shots at.
I'm glad you brought that up,
the United States
JD.
cigar industry, and
Because the Newmans just celebrated a victory there. Can you talk about that, Drew, or is there some kind of a non-disclosure that you?
I want to give two shout outs on that. Kathy Castor, our congresswoman, she jumped in and really was very, very helpful, I believe, with you and your family and your dad and all, and fighting that. And I hope they won.
Years worth of fighting. Yeah,
Right.
I believe
and the
so.
other shout out I wanted to do before we finish the show is to my good friend Raphael Ybor. Raphael, I think, is the great
grandson.
Great grandson.
No, I think it's just great.
Yeah, one or the other. Really, I think pretty much the last remaining Ybor of that family, at least in the Tampa area.
And he's still here, and he's still with us.
He's still here, and he's still with us, and he comes to our Rotary Club meeting, the Rotary Club of Ybor City.
John, put in a good word for me. I've been trying to get him on the Tampa Native Show for some time now, and I've had Drew's daddy came on the show via Zoom when we were doing when it was COVID times. I want to
give it
get
a
Drew
try.
to sit in with me, but Rafa won't do it. I've been almost pleading with him, and he won't do it.
I would love to do it.
Of course, no, not you, Drew. I know
Mr.
you're coming in,
Mr.
but Mr. Ebor's
Mr. Ybor
great
himself.
grandson. Yeah, I just, what if the Tampa Native Show should ever go off the air, and I don't get Mr. Ybor to come on the show.
you might
Mr.
have
Ebor's
to-
great grandson.
you might
I'm going to have
go
to scrub
remote.
the whole mission.
You might have to go remote and go to his house, but because I think he.
I don't mind doing that.
I would do it with you at his house, but I'm not sure he's going out that much anymore.
All right, I'm going to count on you to do that, John. So,
Grace, we haven't heard from you for a while. What else you got going on?
I mean, in
You said
terms,
you're with the Gonsmart family group.
I do. I work with the Gonsmarts. It's a 1905 family of restaurants. We've got a big 5K coming up, Richard's Run for Life. It's in Centennial Park in Ybor
That's always
City,
a lot of fun.
November 3rd, which is a Friday evening.
Are you running?
I will
Walking.
be. I'm registered to run, but I will be taking photos of the other runners. That's normally my niche.
There you
But
go.
there'll be food there, tons of goody pie and food from Casa Santo Stefano, 1905 salad from the Columbia, and beer from Eulalie Spring Brewery. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's kind of like a party in the park where you could run if you'd like to, but we're raising money
sort of
this
in
year.
the evening, isn't it?
It is. It starts at 7 p.m. So it's
Yeah.
the only race where you can run in the streets of Ybor at night.
Yeah, my
And-
wife.
it's a
Lynn-
great deal of fun.
Lynn was running a few years ago, and she ran in that race, and then she ran in another race with Richard downtown. But that's that run for life is wonderful.
And proceeds benefit?
So for the past 21 years, it's been benefiting Moffitt Cancer Center. But this year, the proceeds will all go towards kind of a joint effort between Moffitt and UF Small Animal Hospital that they've been working on a vaccine for sarcoma cancer. The research started when the Gonsmarts, they always travel with these big German shepherds. Some of their German shepherds got sick. First, Rusty, who has a hot dog named after him at Goody Goody. Rusty got sick with aspergillosis, which normally dogs only live a couple of weeks, but he lived 7 years because of the research done at UF Small
A
Animal
lot of
Hospital.
trips to Gainesville. Yeah, a lot of
And
trips to
then
Gainesville.
another German Shepherd had sarcoma, and they started using that same treatment to shrink the tumor size, and they've been able to use that treatment on mice, dogs, and now children. So we're working on raising money for that.
Nice.
And it's going to be a really fun night.
Nice. And they can go online to register, right?
Absolutely. RichardsRunForLife.org.
Beautiful.
It's a great time. I've done it myself, too. And then afterwards, you
Did
sit.
you run?
No, I walked.
Okay.
There was some walking involved, as I recall. But it was cool because the streets were closed, and that's the only time you get a chance to,
I mean, listen.
do that little route. And
If I'm
it's
running,
not-
the police are behind me.
There you go. That's that young whippersnapper again. He don't say much, but when he does, Sean, what do you got for us?
I forgot to mention we're going to have there's going to be an Ybor City art tour. This will be the second year we've done it on the 19th of this month.
Nice.
And it goes to HGC Ybor campus, Marcolina's, which is a new gallery on 7th, throughout the Crest, the Bricks, because they have their whole art gallery area. Hotel Haya is
What
gonna
night
be,
is that?
October 19th.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And
Oh,
it's,
that's coming up soon.
Yeah. And it's
Tickets available? Where can they find
yeah,
them?
tickets are available on Eventbrite. If you put Ybor City Arts Tour and Google, it'll pop up right away, the tickets for Eventbrite. But yeah, everybody will have like refreshments and stuff, and you kind of just go to each spot in Ybor and kind of see the revitalization.
JD, we've heard this said many, many times on the show. And by people smarter than us even at times.
Well, there's a lot of them.
I know, that's why I brought it up. so but a community can really be measured by how they appreciate, and Bill Carlson comes to mind, Councilman Carlson comes to mind.
He's very much behind the art tour. He
How
helps
much
spread
you
that.
appreciate and love and nourish the art community.
Absolutely.
And we have two representatives here in the studio with us, as well as Drew, who's doing his part. And I think that we should celebrate that. There's a lot going on in this crazy world we're living in right now. But I think an elixir, one of those moments where you can just kind of decompress and escape, if you want to look at it that way, into the arts. That's what these nice folks are doing for us. They're making sure that all of this is continuing, whether it's history, whether it's art in the truest form, and whether it's rolling cigars by hand, as our ancestors did over 100 years ago.
It's all art.
It's all art.
Yeah.
And art plays. Art matters. Okay, I'm going to ring a bell for myself. Okay, that's how you do it over here.
Good call.
So, thank you.
I spent half of my Thursday afternoons over at the Jewish Community Center, City of Tampa Art Center, on the pottery wheel.
That's
And
right. You're throwing clay these days,
doing
my man.
clay. And
Huh?
you know what? This is a relatively new thing for me.
Uh-huh.
But it is. It's just a wonderful.
And you got your hands in the clay, and that's
And your mind goes away, and you don't worry about anything else except making this beautiful pot. Listen, we are
thank all of our guests.
We are so thrilled to have our guest, Sean O'Brien,
Thanks for having me.
Doing wonderful
From the
things
Crest?
on 7th Avenue. Grace Garcia, thank you so much for joining us. And Drew, thanks for taking your time.
We certainly,
Drew Newman,
thank you for being there for us today, Drew. We thank everybody for listening. Thank those that contributed mightily last week. And again, you can always share some WMN jar. Love in our tip jar.
Hit the tip jar.
WMNF.
Hit the
That's
tip
right.
jar.
WMNF.org.
We got a ways to go.
So just on behalf of myself, Mario Nunez, and John Dingfelder, my co-host, Jason Marlowe running the board, thank you, everybody. We certainly appreciate you, and we'll see you again next Friday. Take care, everybody. Have a good weekend.